I charged men $5,000 to teach them how to be more high value. I told them they weren't enough. I convinced them their natural instincts were toxic. I made millions teaching men to perform an exhausting act that left them hollow, anxious, and unable to form real connections. My name is Melissa, and for 7 years, I was one of the most successful female dating coaches in the industry. I had 400,000 YouTube subscribers, a best-selling book, and a coaching program with a 6-month waiting list. Today, I'm going to tell you why I shut it all down. Why I refunded $180,000 in client fees. And why the modern dating advice industry, especially advice from women to men, is destroying an entire generation. This is my confession. This is the story of how I realized I was breaking the very men I promised to help. 8 years ago, I was working as a relationship therapist in Austin, Texas. I was good at my job, helping couples communicate better and navigate conflicts. But I was making $65,000 a year with student loan debt that never seemed to shrink. Then I noticed something. The single men who came to me for help were desperate. Not just lonely, fundamentally convinced they were broken. They'd been rejected so many times on dating apps, ghosted so frequently, that they'd internalized something dark. There's something wrong with me that I need to fix. I saw an opportunity. I started a YouTube channel called The Female Perspective, What Women Really Want. My first video was titled Why Women Ghost You, The Truth Men Don't Want to Hear. I spoke directly to camera, confident and direct, explaining that women ghost men who don't demonstrate enough value, who seem too available, who fail to be sufficiently interesting. The video got 50,000 views in a week. The comments were heartbreaking. Thank you for being honest. Finally, a woman telling us the truth. This explains everything. I made more videos. Each one followed the same formula: identify something normal about male behavior, frame it as a critical flaw, then promise I could teach them to fix it. Within 6 months, I had 100,000 subscribers. My most popular videos were brutal. Why nice is the kiss of death, stop being so available. The exact income level women actually respect. How to hide your desperation, even if you're lonely. Why showing emotions makes women lose attraction. Each video had the same message: you're not enough as you are. You need to be different, better, more strategic. And I could teach you how. The coaching program launched a year later. $5,000 for 3 months of weekly calls, homework assignments, and access to my private community. I told men I'd transform them into high-value males that women couldn't resist. 50 men signed up immediately. Then 100. Then hundreds more. I hired assistant coaches to handle overflow. Within 2 years, I was making $2 million annually. I moved to a penthouse in Los Angeles. I drove a Tesla. I was invited to podcasts, conferences, and speaking engagements. I'd found the formula: tell men they're fundamentally flawed, then sell them the solution. I thought I was helping them. I thought I was giving them the truth that other people were too polite to share. I believed that tough love and brutal honesty were what struggling men needed. I had no idea I was destroying them. My coaching program had 12 modules, and looking back, each one was designed to strip away something authentic and replace it with a performance. Module 1 was eradicating your nice guy syndrome. I taught men that being kind, considerate, or accommodating made them unattractive. I told them that women interpreted niceness as weakness, that genuine care was perceived as manipulation for sex. Every time you do something nice without being asked, I'd say on coaching calls, she's keeping score of how pathetic you are. Stop being helpful. Stop being available. Make her work for your attention. Module 4 was strategic emotional unavailability. I literally taught men to suppress their feelings, to never reveal vulnerability, to treat emotional intimacy as a tactical liability. If they felt anxious, hide it. If they felt hurt, pretend indifference. If they fell in love first, never admit it. Women are attracted to mystery and emotional distance, I told them. The moment you show your full hand, she's gone. You need to always be slightly out of reach. Module 7 was income maximization and status signaling. I taught men that their worth was directly tied to their earning potential and social status. I gave them specific numbers. If you make under 6 figures, you're competing for bottom-tier women. If you want quality, you need to be in the top 10% of earners. I remember a client named Daniel, a teacher making $48,000 a year. He loved his job, was passionate about helping students, but I convinced him he'd never attract quality women unless he switched careers. Within 6 months, he'd quit teaching and was miserable in a corporate sales job he hated, making more money but dead inside. That's the price of dating success, I told him. Sacrifice is required. Module 10 was physical transformation protocol. I had men doing extreme diets, spending hours in the gym daily, getting cosmetic procedures. One client, Thomas, developed an eating disorder trying to achieve the body I told him women demanded. Another, Kevin, went into debt getting hair transplants and dental work. The program was systematic self-destruction disguised as self-improvement. And my clients were grateful. They thanked me for being honest, for not sugarcoating the truth, for finally giving them the real answers about what women wanted. I watched hundreds of men transform into hollow, performing versions of themselves. And I celebrated each transformation as a success story. 6 months into running the program, I started showcasing success stories on my channel. These were graduates who'd found relationship success using my methods. I'd interview them, let them share their transformations, and use them as proof that my system worked. But if I'd actually listened to what they were saying, I would have heard the warning signs everywhere. Jake was my first big success story. 34, former software developer turned entrepreneur, went from 0 dates to dating 3 women simultaneously. He looked great on camera, confident, successful, giving credit to my program for changing his life. Before Melissa's coaching, I was this nice guy who put women on pedestals, he said. Now I understand the game. I keep them all at arm's length, never commit, maintain abundance mentality. They're way more interested in me now that I don't care. The comments loved it. But I noticed something he said off camera. I don't actually enjoy dating anymore. It's exhausting pretending all the time. Sometimes I miss just being able to be myself. I told him that was normal, that he'd adjust, that the results were worth it. I didn't let him say that on camera. Another success story was Marcus. 41, divorced, had completely reinvented himself using my protocols. Lost 50 pounds, got a better job, dressed differently, adopted the emotionally unavailable persona I taught. I'm getting dates for the first time in years, he told my audience. Melissa taught me that showing vulnerability is weakness. Now I'm mysterious, unpredictable. Women can't figure me out. What he didn't say on camera, I feel like a fraud every single day. I went on 3 dates last week and lied about my interests, my hobbies, even what music I like. I'm performing a character. I don't know who I am anymore. The most disturbing was Ryan. 28, sensitive, creative guy who loved poetry and art. My program stripped all of that away. I convinced him that his interests were low value, that he needed to adopt more masculine hobbies, sports, business, fitness. He stopped writing poetry. Stopped painting. Started forcing himself to watch football and talk about stocks. The women he attracted liked this new version of him, but they weren't falling for Ryan, they were falling for someone who didn't exist. I got engaged, he told me 6 months after graduating the program. He seemed happy, but his eyes looked dead. She loves me. Well, she loves who I pretend to be. I can keep this up forever, right? I assured him he could. I told him he'd internalized the lessons so well that the performance had become authentic. 3 months later, he had a breakdown. The engagement fell apart. He sent me a message I'll never forget. I destroyed myself trying to become someone women would want. Now I don't exist anymore. Just this hollow thing that performs correctly. I archived his success story video and moved on to the next one. The moment everything cracked was during a live workshop in Miami. I'd organized a weekend intensive for 150 of my clients, men who'd paid $3,000 each for in-person coaching, networking, and what I called field practice, approaching women in real settings. The first evening, we met in a hotel conference room. As I looked around at these 150 men, I felt a wave of something I couldn't immediately identify. Then it hit me, they all looked the same. Same clothes, same haircuts, same body language, same way of speaking. I'd created an army of identical performing robots. But worse than the uniformity was the energy in the room. It was desperate and brittle. These men were exhausted from performing. You could see it in their forced confidence, their rehearsed casual attitudes, the way they monitored every word they said. During the networking portion, I watched them interact. Nobody had real conversations. Every exchange was strategic, calculated, measuring value and status. They couldn't just be human with each other because I'd taught them that authentic humanity was a liability. One man, David, approached me during a break. He was crying. 39 years old, successful architect, objectively handsome, wearing the expensive clothes I'd recommended. Tears streaming down his face. "I can't do this anymore," he said. "I've been following your program for 18 months. I'm exhausted. I went on a date last week with an amazing woman. We had great chemistry. She asked me what I was feeling, and I gave her the strategic response you taught me: deflect with humor, maintain mystery. She said I seemed emotionally unavailable and ended the date." He paused, his voice breaking. She was right. I am emotionally unavailable. But I used to be open and warm. You taught me that was weakness. Now I can't access those parts of myself anymore. I've forgotten how to be real. I gave him the standard response: you're going through a transition period. Stay the course. The right woman will appreciate the high-value man you're becoming. But as I said it, I felt something die inside me. I didn't believe my own words anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to the hotel bar and saw a group of my clients drinking together. I sat nearby, unnoticed, and listened to their conversation. They weren't talking about dating strategies or self-improvement. They were talking about how lonely they were. How tired they were of pretending. How much they missed being able to just be themselves without calculating every move. "I'm more successful with women now," one said. "But I don't actually like any of them. And they don't actually know me. So what's the point?" Another responded, "The point is we're not dying alone." That's the point, right? That's what Melissa promises: if we follow the program, we won't die alone. Yeah, but we're already alone, a third guy said quietly. We're just alone while on dates now instead of alone at home. The group went silent. Nobody had a counter-argument. I sat there, drink in my hand, listening to the men I'd broken talk about their emotional emptiness. And for the first time, I admitted to myself what I'd known for months: I wasn't helping anyone. I was making everything worse. After Miami, I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. When I got back to LA, I did something I'd been avoiding for years: I actually researched whether my methods worked long-term. I contacted 200 graduates from my first 2 years of coaching, men who'd gone through the full program and had at least 3 years since completion. I told them I was doing a follow-up study to showcase long-term success rates. The data horrified me. Of the 200 men, only 12 were in relationships that had lasted more than 1 year. 12. That's a 6% long-term success rate. But the numbers got worse. 47 had developed diagnosable anxiety disorders since completing my program. 33 were in therapy specifically addressing issues with authenticity and identity. 21 had stopped dating entirely because it had become too psychologically exhausting. The messages they sent me were gutting. Your program helped me get dates, but I can't sustain relationships because I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. Eventually, the mask slips, and they leave confused about who I actually am. I make 6 figures now like you said I needed to, but I hate my job and I'm burned out. The women I attract are attracted to my income, not me. I feel like a wallet with legs. I developed severe anxiety from constantly monitoring my behavior and words. Every interaction feels like a performance I might fail. Dating isn't fun anymore, it's terrifying. I lost myself following your advice. I don't know what I actually like, what I actually believe, or who I actually am anymore. I'm just this thing I built to be acceptable to women. I interviewed a dozen men in depth. They described feeling like emotional robots, incapable of genuine intimacy. They'd mastered the performance of confidence while feeling hollowed out inside. They attracted women through strategic behavior, then couldn't maintain relationships because nothing about their presentation was authentic. One guy, Eric, told me something that still haunts me: I did everything you taught me. I became this high-value, emotionally unavailable, high-earning, fit guy who follows all the rules. And you know what? Women do respond to it. I get dates now. But here's the thing, I don't want them. Because I know they're not responding to me. They're responding to this character I'm performing. And I'm so tired of performing that I don't even care about dating anymore. Then I looked at data about modern dating more broadly. Male suicide rates were climbing. Depression and anxiety among single men had doubled in 5 years. Online forums for men were filled with despair, anger, and resignation. And everywhere I looked, I saw my advice echoed back. Be high value. Never show vulnerability. Maintain emotional distance. Make her work for your attention. Focus on your income and status. I'd helped create an entire generation of men who'd learned to hate and suppress their authentic selves in pursuit of dating success. Men who'd sacrificed their mental health, their careers they loved, their interests and passions, their capacity for emotional intimacy, all to become attractive to women. And it didn't even work. They were miserable and alone, just in a different way. I decided to interview men who'd never hired me but had followed my free content on YouTube. I expected to find some success stories, some men who'd benefited from the basic advice without going to extremes. Instead, I found Trevor. 26, junior high English teacher, exactly the kind of guy I used to say wasn't ambitious enough. He'd watched all my videos, internalized every message about being high value. I loved teaching, he told me. But your videos made me feel like I was failing at life. You said multiple times that teachers are low-value career choices. So I quit. I'm in medical device sales now. I make more money, but I'm dead inside. I think about my former students and feel like I abandoned them to chase some version of success that would make me dateable. He'd been on 40 first dates in the past year. 0 second dates. The women could sense his misery and inauthenticity. He'd sacrificed everything that made him who he was, and ended up less attractive than when he started. I met Nathan, 31, naturally thoughtful and emotional. My content had convinced him these traits were fatal flaws. He'd spent 2 years training himself to suppress emotions, to respond to everything with detached amusement, to never reveal how he felt. I finally got a girlfriend using your methods, he said. We dated for 8 months. She broke up with me because she said dating me was like dating a pleasant stranger. She said she never felt like she knew me, that I was always performing. She was right. I was performing every second. After the breakup, he had a panic attack so severe he was hospitalized. The therapist told him he'd developed severe dissociation from suppressing his emotional life for years. He was in intensive therapy trying to reconnect with feelings he'd taught himself to bury. The stories kept coming. Men who'd developed eating disorders pursuing the physical transformation I promoted. Men who'd gone into debt buying the clothes, cars, and lifestyle accessories I said they needed. Men who'd destroyed friendships because I'd taught them that time with male friends was low value compared to pursuing women. But the worst was Michael. 43, divorced father of 2. He'd followed my advice about not leading with his parent status, about positioning his kids as occasional factors rather than central to his life. He'd become emotionally distant from his children, spending less time with them to focus on dating. I destroyed my relationship with my kids, he told me, crying. I have weekend custody, but I was always trying to arrange dates instead of spending time with them. You said kids were baggage that lowered my value. So I treated them like baggage. My daughter told me last month she doesn't want to see me anymore. She said I clearly care more about finding a girlfriend than being her father. He'd successfully dated several women using my methods. Not one relationship lasted. He'd sacrificed his children for nothing. I sat across from him, watching this broken father sob, and realized I'd encouraged him to destroy the most important relationships in his life in pursuit of shallow romantic success. That was the moment I knew I had to stop. I couldn't do this anymore. Shutting down $1 million business isn't simple, but I knew I had to do it. I recorded a video titled "I Was Wrong, Why I'm Shutting Down My Coaching Business." I told the truth. All of it. I admitted that my methods didn't work long-term, that they caused psychological harm, that I'd built an empire on making men hate themselves. I announced I was refunding everyone currently enrolled in my program, $180,000 worth of client fees. The response was immediate and vicious. Male self-improvement coaches attacked me for being weak, for betraying men, for giving up just when they needed me most. Women called me a traitor for defending men. My own industry turned on me. But the messages from former clients were different. Thank you for admitting this. I'd been in therapy for a year trying to undo the damage your program did to my sense of self. This validation means everything. I wasted 3 years of my life trying to become the person you said women wanted. I'm relieved to finally have permission to stop performing and just be myself again. I'm reconnecting with my kids after pushing them away based on your advice. It's hard, but your admission that you were wrong gave me the courage to apologize to them and start rebuilding. I closed my YouTube channel, unpublished my book, and shut down all my coaching programs. I went back to being a regular therapist, but this time specializing in helping men recover from toxic self-improvement advice, including mine. The most gratifying work I do now is helping men remember who they were before they tried to become high value. Helping them access emotions they'd buried. Encouraging them to pursue careers they love rather than careers that pay. Teaching them that authenticity and vulnerability aren't weaknesses, they're the foundation of real connection. I make $70,000 a year now. I drive a used Honda. I live in a modest apartment in Denver. I have none of the success or status I had before. But I sleep at night. Finally, I sleep. I'm 39 now, and I spend my days trying to repair the damage I did. I'll never reach everyone I hurt, my content is still out there, being reshared and recycled, still convincing men they're not enough. But here's what I want men struggling with modern dating to know. You are enough as you are. Your kindness isn't weakness, it's a gift. Your emotions aren't flaws to manage, they're what make you human. Your career doesn't determine your worth, and neither does your income. The interests and passions that make you weird or different are what make you interesting. Modern dating is broken, but the solution isn't to destroy yourself trying to fit a high-value template. The solution is to be authentically yourself and find someone who loves that person, not some performed version optimized for attraction. If you followed advice like mine, if you've spent years trying to become someone more acceptable, I want you to know, you can come back from this. You can reconnect with the person you buried. It takes work, often therapy, but you can remember who you were before you started performing. And if you're a dating coach, especially a woman coaching men, I'm begging you, look at the long-term outcomes of your advice. Are your clients actually happier? Actually in fulfilling relationships? Or are they just better at getting first dates while becoming more psychologically damaged? The dating industry makes billions teaching people they're not enough, then selling them fixes. I was part of that machine. I profited from male insecurity and loneliness. I convinced struggling men that the problem was who they were fundamentally, not just their approach. I was wrong. Brutally, destructively wrong. Real dating success doesn't come from becoming someone you're not. It comes from being brave enough to be yourself and finding someone who loves that person. It comes from building genuine connections, not strategic performances. That's what I teach now. That's what I wish I'd taught from the beginning. If my confession helps even one man stop performing and start being real again, then maybe I can begin to make up for the damage I've done. Maybe redemption is possible, even for someone like me. Have you ever followed dating advice that made you lose yourself? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more honest conversations about modern relationships.